Hello everybody, this is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. Today I'm going to be talking about the Blue Beetle. I think this is the third volume of the Blue Beetle, and it's the first to come out by DC Comics. The Blue Beetle has a very confusing real history. Okay, let's start at the beginning. The Blue Beetle came out in 1939. Under Fox Comics, if I remember correctly, and it was a different character. Dan Garrett was a policeman, and he wore like a blue vest, and he took Protein 2X, and he got superpowers, and he went around patrolling everything and doing typical superhero stuff. His comic was kind of sporadic. Sometimes like there would be issues just missing that were never produced or whatever. And then later on, they changed the spelling of his name, added another T, and it was Dan Garrett, Blue Beetle, and he had a magic scarab that he would touch, and he would get superpowers. And just what superpowers he had was so vaguely defined as to be unlimited. Like, at first he could fly, super strength, bullets. I think he had like some sort of heat vision, then he could fly. Then next thing you know, he's getting gigantic and pass through walls, and, you know, he just power creep always happens. And then kind of faded into obscurity. And Charlton Comics in the 60s bought all the plates and everything like that to remake the Blue Beetle comics, and they started reprinting some of the comics, and then they eventually started writing new stories with Dan Garrett, and this was the one with the actual scarab. So you could already say that there's two versions of the Blue Beetle already. You know, even though they both have the same name, they have a different spelling of their name and different powers. So I'm going to say they were two different characters, whatever. Who cares? And then they had Dan Garrett, he was the archaeology professor. He brought one of his students, Ted Cord, with him, and he was killed on an adventure, and he asked Ted to, before he died, he asked Ted to take over, and he wanted to give him the scarab, but the scarab fell into a volcanic crevasse, and Ted Cord already said he'd be the Blue Beetle, but he doesn't have the scarab. So he went back and spent some time developing technology, and he became a technology-based Blue Beetle. Now so here we have Ted Cord as like I said, a new version. So this is the third iteration of the Blue Beetle. And this is the one that I became familiar with. I just remember as a little kid, I was at a pool party, so I must have been like 7 or 8. And my friend's mother would always give everybody comic books. And she was an odd lady. She would sit down and make us read it to her that we could understand the comics. So here I'm a little kid reading this comic book, this Blue Beetle comic book, to this woman to prove to her that I can have this comic book. But whatever. And that was the Ted Cord version, and it was drawn by Steve Ditko. So Steve Ditko, after he left Spider-Man, after he left Marvel, he took a lot of these Charlton characters and kind of put his own little spin on everything. So he kind of became like a quippy Spider-Man type character, very agile and everything. And what powers does he have? Like I said, he doesn't have any powers, but he has the bug, which was an airship, and with this cable, and then he would have this gun. It was originally just like a super flash gun. He'd turn the thing, and it was so bright that you get blinded and stunned. And then later on, he put an air compressor in it, so it would hit you with like a compressed air enough to knock down somebody. So he kind of had like non-lethal weapons. And I remember from the comic that I had as a kid, I don't know if they ever referenced it in DC, but this costume was kind of like a woven mesh, almost like a armor, and you couldn't take the mask off unless you had like a computer chip that you pressed to the chin strap. You know, so he was all super high tech. But I always loved this bug. Another aside is in The Watchmen. Alan Moore, when he wrote The Watchmen, he originally wanted to use all the Charlton characters, and when DC saw what he was doing to them, and some of them died, they said no. So he created analogs. So the Night Owl, if you saw the Watchmen movie or if you read the Watchmen comic, is Blue Beetle. So it was originally Blue Beetle, Ted Cord, turned into Night Owl. Okay, so now this. So then in Charlton, I think, ceased publication in 1968, and DC bought the rights to all the Charlton characters in 1983. So this character started showing up in DC as the Dan character, and I first got introduced to him in DC in the Crisis on Infinite Earths, and then like I said, I started that comic got me into DC, and then they launched a whole bunch of different comics. So here we go. This is Len Wein, as you might remember, as the creator of Swamp Thing and Wolverine, and Paris Cullins, a very interesting artist, and Bruce Patterson. Bruce Patterson, he just inked a comic that I just showcased that my mind is blanking, and that's what made me want to look him up and look at the Blue Beetle. So that's what I did. So this is the premiere issue. Watch out, world! The Blue Beetle is back, and Adventuredom will never be the same. I just love this. This is a great cover as far as I'm concerned. This is 1986, June, 75 cents. Look here's some signatures. This box meant it didn't have a UPC symbol, so that meant I got this at a comic book store rather than like off a spinner rack in a thing. Oh wow! This was comic book novels that DC experimented with, and they took classic science fiction stories and added art to them. So here we have the Nightwings, Frost and Fire, Merchants of Venus. I forget. I have a few of these, but I don't have these three. I think I don't remember. Oh, Hell on Earth, Nightwing. But there was other ones, like the Sand Kings and stuff like that. So here we go. Let's look at the in Blue Beetle, published monthly comics. Okay, 1986. We already knew that from the cover. So here look at. I just love this artwork. Okay, what is it? I forget the Windy City. Chicago. Okay, so Blue Beetle is based in Chicago. It's about time Chicago had some their own superheroes. So yeah, the firemen, they can't get there. They look up, and I just love this ship. It's just so cool. So the Blue Beetle's airship shows up, the bug. And wonderful splash page. Look at that. That's frameable artwork. The people of Simple Time knew him only as the Blue Beetle. So he was Peter Parker and Iron Man. So he was a technology genius with like a goofy personality. So I definitely Peter Parker and Tony Stark put together. Returned to a special kind of greatness with Len Wein, author, Paris Cullins, penciler, Bruce Patterson, inker. Yeah, Bruce Patterson did the Micronauts, I think. And John Costanza, letter of that name, comes up a lot. Anthony Tolan, colorist, I know nothing about him. And Julie Schwartz, editor. I told you Julie Schwartz was a phenomenal talent and pretty much DC's Stan Lee. So here we have him jumping down. Look at the figure rises and Fire Fist. Fire Fist. Look at that. It's just so hokey. I just love the way the Blue Beetle looks, though. So Fire Fist and the Blue Beetle are battling. Look at the fire, and I love the way showing his agility. That seems to be his like heightened intelligence and heightened agility seem to be his two main abilities. Just jumping around, and then he's doing the Spider-Man, goofing on you kind of stuff. And the fire's getting to him. Challenge of the GoBots. They're awesome. Okay, so any of you doubters who don't like them, I just got news for you. They're awesome. Get Amazing Man in your mailbox. This was an interesting comic, Amazing Man. It was set in the regular DC world, and Amazing Man, or as Maze as his friends called him, was this like little diminutive person who lived in like Brooklyn, and he just went around doing good deeds. And his best friend, who was like a dog-faced boy, he's a human. He has a good-looking sister, Brenda, who's married to Guido, or Guido's always hitting on Brenda. Yeah, Brenda's married to Eddie, and Guido's always hitting on Brenda or whatever. So Denton's like this horrible mutant. He's just born looking like a dog. No explanation was ever made. And turned out like this guy was like, he won the Publishers Clearinghouse and was independently wealthy. It just went around doing them, and it was like a sweet comic. It lasted like 10 or 11 issues. all the people at DC were really pushing it, and I of course resisted it because I was too cool for stuff like this. And then I went and bought all the back issues just as the last issue was announced. So go figure, I killed it. But this was kind of sweet. And then they did a couple of one shots, but something about the art in the one shots just didn't work. It just didn't look right. I just remember Frank Miller, at the height of his fame of Dark Knight Returns, did a cover for the last issue to try to get a sales boost to keep it in publication. So here we have, look at this. This I always liked. He has a remote control, so it drops this to him. Like, yeah, see here he's activating, and he just goes up into, pulls himself in, and then shoots down really fast to get some momentum to break in and rescuing some firemen. So he's bringing the firemen up to the bug. Everybody's happy. Well, not everybody's happy, but they're happy they rescued the firemen. The firemen, you superheroes are always... don't get... We've been through Hellboy, and I want some answers. I don't even know the question, Chief. So he's being flippant, stereotypical trope. You know, you grandstanders get all the glory, blah, blah, blah. And then he just leaves, you know. So, good introduction to the hero. We find out that Fire Fist is the villain. And this is if you've seen The Watchmen or read the Watchmen comic, this should be familiar to you. This is exactly like his lair. It hits the water, goes into a tunnel, and then back up. Except he had like I forget the Night Owl's secret identity, but he had like a warehouse. And Ted Kord, he owns Kord Industries, like a big company that hires a lot of people in Chicago. And here he is going. So he's like Bruce Wayne in right now, you know, getting to work. Because you demanded an encore, son of Ambushbug. This is Keith Giffen's character. He's just like this madcap, zany thing, and I know nothing about him. I something about him I never liked, and I never got any of his comics. I literally know nothing other than I'm familiar with the covers. I couldn't even tell you. It's some sort of humor comic. I don't know if it's even set in normal DC. I don't know. Like I said, the only time I ever liked Keith Giffen was when he did the Legion of Superheroes. Here we have 6 panels, and together. Oh, I thought this was the origin. Okay, so he's talking about a film about a Fire Fist armor. So he thinks he knows who designed this armor. He's okay. Oh, Fire Fist fought the original Blue Beetle. That's the original Blue Beetle. Dan Garrett. He would say a magic word while holding his mystic scarab, and he was transformed into the legendary Blue Beetle. Look at that. Laser beam, super strength, flight, and everything like that. And so he was getting killed, and swear you say, but he lost the amulet in like a volcanic crevasse. So here he is designing everything that he needs, and you could definitely see they're aping some Steve Ditko artwork. I got to get some Steve Ditko, so that, you know, he's looking at the prominent archaeologist dies on Pango Island. So that becomes a subplot later on, that somebody's going to Pango Island to get that scarab. I mean, it's a mystic artifact of cosmic power. So he's hoping that he's doing his mentor proud. So he's Ted Kord Industries, the secretary. You know, he's just flippantly throwing away appointments and bills, and she's like, "What are you doing? You're making my job harder." Kind of a jerk like that, you know. He's supposed to make him endearing, but it's like, she's not a rich executive, you know. She depends on her paycheck, so help the girl out. So here he is doing research with everything, scolding the scientist, and he's put in this awkward position as he's kind of a goofy kid at heart, and he has to admonish these scientists who are taking risks because you know, he's got a company to run, but at the same time he admires their inquisitive. And this is the love interest. What's her name? I don't even know. She didn't last too long. And here's Fire Fist. Is he? Yep, Fire Fist is going to Pago Island. So here he is working out, and that became like a subplot. Star Labs. That Star Labs is like a technology firm in DC Comics. That banging you hear is my Roomba. It's always set. So this is his buddy. They design stuff. I think they were college roommates. Oh wow, subscriptions. Hex Action. Hex was Jonah Hex, a cowboy. Great comic. That was a really good comic. Warlord, Sergeant Rock, Amethyst. Amethyst was a sword and sorcery, like a little girl who transformed between Earth and the world of Amethyst. Is actually pretty good. DC Comics Presents was their team up. Tales of the Teen Titans was the reprint of the new Teen Titans. Secret Origins. Yeah, this was a really good run. This is a good slate of comics for DC at the time. Really, really good. So, Shady Business. Him and his design buddy or whatever. He's going up into the bug because the Fire Fist has been sighted. Oh my God, how horrendous! It's a firehouse. Here he is, Fire Fist. Horrible name, Fire Fist. So he adapted the bug to shoot a foam fire extinguisher at him. See, that's what I mean. He's clever. So jumping out, doing some kicking. Here's the Marvel, the DC Heroes role-playing game. I never played this. I played the Marvel one. I don't know if this was better or worse. Meanwhile, Mark Evanier is the guy who wrote Gru along with Sergio Aragones. So here he's doing his snappy banter while jumping around and fighting Fire Fist. And Fire Fist is all gummed up because of the foam. And now he's pulling out the hoses and tubes. And the floor's collapsing and jumping out of the way. He's getting his fire abilities back. Look at the agility. Pole dancing over here. Swings around, gets his momentum up, kicks him. It's everywhere. The fire's everywhere. And then he's maniacal. Ha ha ha, burn, burn, burn. The city's not for burning. Okay. So here it is. It wasn't the greatest, but it was a good introduction to this character. So here's the traditional letters pages written by the creators because there's no letters yet. But I love this run. They tried to have like a lighthearted feel to it, at the same time making like real stakes. I think it lasted 25 issues, and once Paris Cullen left, I got to admit that the quality kind of left. I liked his cartoonish, Steve Ditko-ish art style, very kinetic, very fun, and I got to dig out some of the old Blue Beetle so I could compare it to you, show how it used to work. It's kind of hokey, the old ones. It's like, there was no recurring characters, just whatever floated the story along. Almost no continuity between issue to issue. Like the old Blue Beetle, if you ask me, it was like the worst of like the golden age. It was just like nobody treated the comic book serious. Nobody, Nowadays they're kind of loose with continuity, but at this point everything was super tight in continuity, and I got to admit most comic book collectors like that. Whereas the Golden Age Blue Beetle, they just paid no attention. Like one issue would contradict the next issue, even the spelling of the names and superpower stuff like that. But this is Ted Kord. Oh yeah, Ted Kord was killed in the Infinite Crisis, I think it was, or Identity Crisis. The Maxwell Lord, the villain from the Wonder Woman movie, shot and killed him while he was, because Maxwell Lord, he was originally a financier who financed the Justice League, and then they made him into a villain, and so he was like the ultimate businessman, tycoon, and he was gathering intel on all the superheroes, and I think he secretly worked for a spy organization, and Ted Kord, believe it or not, I mean, he is a genius, even though he acts like a goof. He was the first one to find out that Maxwell Lord was collecting data on how to like kill all the superhero population, and Maxwell Lord shot and killed him. And then the fans didn't really like that. He was a beloved character. That was just they did that in the worst possible way, in that it was just a means to sell this Identity Crisis comic, not to increase drama over the Blue Beetle. So they kind of stumped on the Blue Beetle to hype something else, which I don't know, didn't really work. And a lot of people got pissed off, so they had this character, the Black Beetle, who came, and he was supposed to be from the future and it turned out it was Ted Kord went back in the past and saved himself or whatever. I don't know what's going on in current DC, but there's a new Blue Beetle called Jamie Reyes, and I kind of got, I'm an old fogey, so when I saw like there was a new character with the same name, I got my defenses up and I wasn't too happy with it. But I got to say, they did a good job. It was a good comic. I don't know what's still going on with Jamie Reyes. I don't keep up with it, but I was kind of happy. And then DC rebooted with the New 52, and they made it so that there was no other Blue Beetles, and then the fans didn't like that, so they brought back all the previous incarnations. Like I said, it's a convoluted mess. That's DC for you. This is part of it I understand because DC was big on buying other characters from a bunch of companies, but back then they had an elegant solution is that they put them on their own parallel world, and then the Crisis on Infinite Earths mushed them all onto one world, and their stories were kind of overlapping and whatever. DC should have just started everything from one, and said that none of these characters existed before, or came up with a coherent past. But they half-assed it, if you asked me. So there you go. I'll rant about the Crisis on Infinite Earth pretty much every time I talk about DC. But I've been talking for 20 minutes. That's enough about the Blue Beetle. I'm going to do 2 videos today to catch up so that tomorrow the videos will be early in the morning like they used to be because I'm back to a normal schedule. All right, thanks a lot. See ya. Goodbye.